Hi, and welcome back to Build a Better Adventure. I'm your host, Brian. On this particular video, I really want to talk about how the channel got started. What are the things that we're going to try to accomplish with this YouTube and Rumble channel, as well as what are the things that motivate me, not only in building adventures, but then providing tips so that we can collectively elevate the adventuring within role-playing games. First, a little bit about me. I am not a Dungeons and Dragons only kind of individual. I've been playing many different games. Some of them are listed here. Some of them I didn't even include, like the old school Robotech. But I got started in role-playing games with the 1981 Dungeons and Dragons Basic Blue Box. So long-term pedigree in playing role-playing games and kind of understanding what are the things that I find interesting as a player. And then as a GM, I really got involved right about the time that 3rd edition D&D came out. And I did it in two different ways. One of them was creating large-scale campaign worlds, and another one was doing one-shots, which we would often play on Halloween. And there was a sense of horror and danger, as well as a little bit of comedy thrown in to kind of really actually accentuate the horror, believe it or not. And the notion of creating epic adventures really gets solidified in these one-shots being created. More recently, I have taken an interest in modifying either existing games with quite a bit of development or building things from scratch. From Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, the 2014 version, I took the Lost Mines of Phandelver campaign starter box and really extended out the timeline. That way, decisions that were made by the players both in town and away on their adventures would have a greater impact on the town of Phandalin. In Storm King's Thunder, I don't know if you all have played it or not, but the first 5 levels are kind of awful. And they talk quite often about, oh, you can kind of just switch in Lost Mines of Phandelver or establish your own sense of what happens to the characters early on in their career for this particular adventure. I took the approach of really going through and either reviewing and using adventures that were already built or creating my own so that we could kind of show the characters what had happened as opposed to telling them. At the beginning of Storm King's Thunder, there's this whole background and backstory of, you know, these things that the Storm King went through. And instead of telling the players this throughout the game, I had them experience it firsthand with an unnatural storm that crashed down on Daggerford as they were trying to get in, and lots of people died. But it really emphasized what was occurring in the game and making them a more active participant in that scenario. Then 2 years ago, I went to MythicCon and I decided I was going to take adventures with me to run. And so one of them was a homegrown around Paranoia. Paranoia is a fantastic game, and I tend to not use the most recent rule sets. I really like the West End Games version, which is what you see up on screen. And then I also took a Pathfinder for Savage Worlds game that I built from the ground up called Not Everyone Becomes a God. And it's the early stages of the Pathfinder Society. It's just getting off the ground. And they're having to contend with a scenario where people are being kidnapped, and just slightly before the game begins, you're informed about a person who fails the Starfall trials, which we know about. The Starfall trials in Pathfinder are ways for mere mortals to become gods. And we know about the ones that were successful because they are the current pantheon in the Pathfinder environment. What this focused on, and I had never seen it before, was the notion of what would happen if someone wanted to take the Starfall trials and failed. and failed in a very big and epic way. I wanted to talk a little bit about Pathfinder for Savage Worlds. Between requesting licensing agreements from both Paizo and Pinnacle, who make Savage Worlds, it's really convoluted and the licensing is too restrictive. So while I would love to make more adventures for Pathfinder for Savage Worlds, I'm probably not going to, because I don't think I can even give it away. The last one is the RPG rule set that I have completely fallen in love with recently, and that is Shadow of the Demon Lord, created by Robert Schwab. The adventures that you can find for Shadow of the Demon Lord are kind of skimpy, and I say that, but I mean no disrespect, from the standpoint that the people who are creating these adventures are only charging like $1.99 for them. So some of the things can be kind of like excused on, you're not paying for any of that. So yeah, I can go make my own maps and I can create my own handouts. But I really wanted to create Shadow of the Demon Lord games that are collective, large campaign settings. I haven't really played through one of those yet. So I came up with the idea of creating a campaign for Shadow of the Demon Lord that I called Infinite Oasis. Currently, I'm on my 4th major rewrite of the campaign, with many minor versions in between. We are play testing it with 2 different groups, and their feedback, one is all 3D printed, and there's a certain tactile nature of them being able to experience the game firsthand that allows for them to provide me with really, really good feedback. The other one is done online, and we're in the early stages of that play test. At the beginning of that campaign, I created a small encounter with the assumption that people had not played before. And so I wanted to create just a small combat so that people would kind of get used to how a Shadow of the Demon Lord game, how the rule set plays, but also the thematic pieces of it. So I would give them a little bit of history on what happened up until that combat. They would have that combat, and then they would start the campaign. Well, since then, I've taken that introduction and blown it out to its own adventure. So What About the Children is a starter adventure that I pulled from the Infinite Oasis campaign. I'll probably still include it in the campaign, but it is something all to its own at this point, much more extensive. I've really enjoyed watching people piece together the mystery in their own head. There's even situations where you can run it in a different way in order to mix it up. There's like a canonical way, and then there might be other people who could have done it, and ways that you can play that game out. So, quick shout out, and this I have to give, The Night of the Rise by Jeff C. Stevens. You can find it on DriveThruRPG. It comes in different formats like PDF, Fantasy Grounds, and Roll20. I give it a straight 8 out of 10. I used it as part of my intro adventure for Storm King's Thunder. Absolutely the funniest adventure I'd ever played. You have to have fun people who are ready to do a little bit of role playing and a little bit of improv, but it was hilarious. We combined it with another one of Jeff's adventures that you can find in the book Encounters of a Savage City, called Citizens of Earth. And the only reason I gave it an 8 out of 10 and not a 10 out of 10, or at least a 9 out of 10, is that the maps may need some attention for people who are doing online digital hosting of the game or streaming the game. If I remember correctly, the maps really look like graph paper, and they're very sparse. That being said, the adventure surrounding the maps is hilarious. You can watch what my adventure imparting did on the Dormicom channel. The links are in the description area below if you'd like to take a look at that. Next, so when I look at a module and I pick it up and I go, that's not a better adventure, what am I really looking at? And there's 4 things to me that that seem to stand out as things that you can't find. These are things that are missing. And that is, the module is missing a consistent story. So often you'll pick up an adventure and they'll give you a handful of things, and they kind of have an expectation that you are going to lay down all the framework and get people out of being completely stuck, and that the story itself is all kind of in the mind of the person who created it. It's not really well placed within the adventuring container, whether or not you're buying a PDF or a virtual tabletop module, whatnot. And so there's holes in the story that you're left to fill in. The next thing is that the epic story elements are missing. So I want to give characters a chance to do something heroic and exciting. Operating a barista is not one of those things. I'm not saying that you can't create adventure around that. What I am saying is that somewhere in the story, you have to make it so that people can do these great, impressive, potentially heroic things. Now, another thing that is almost always missing from modules that I would not call better are maps, and we can add handouts. So in this case, maps and handouts are either missing or visually underwhelming, and they require the game master to go back in and do work after they've already paid for the adventure. Natural NPC actions, this to me is one of the biggest things that are missing from modules. So characters will act one way and then act another, and there will be no reason between the two other than, hey, we really wanted a particular scene to occur. And that's not a good enough reason. That doesn't create natural NPC reactions and actions to the world around them. And so we want to make sure that as we're building our adventure, our NPCs have a goal in mind. So if their reactions to things change, it's natural because their goal was A and what they're reacting to is B, and it's there's something in their initial goals that make how they respond to particular tasks different. We don't want it to be that they just act quirky different. No, let's go beyond that. So what will we cover on this channel? The very first thing I want to talk about is we are going to try to release content every Tuesday and Thursday afternoon, and that's if you are in the EST time zone. There are a bunch of things that we're going to try to cover. The first one is tips for creating adventures, and this is for you creating your own adventures, right? It's not by taking a look at what I've done or asking you to purchase anything. This is, hey, if you're in that mindset of, hey, I want to create my own better adventure, what are the things that I should be doing to start? What are the things that as I build an adventure I should be considering? How should I be setting up the world in such a way that I can start play testing or receive feedback, and what do you do with feedback that isn't necessarily positive, right? These are all those particular aspects of the game of creating adventures. Then the other thing is we're going to be building adventures on this channel. So originally I'm going to recap some of the adventures that I've been currently working on, but then next we're going to take a look at building adventures together and what are the things that we would necessarily want in a particular thing. I'm hoping very much that you want to contribute with suggestions on systems that we should be using and adventures that we should be trying to build out. So I'm excited about that part. The next thing is we'll probably go over some of the play testing. Maybe we'll show some gameplay footage, but that's not going to be the emphasis of this particular channel. This channel is about building adventures, and when it doesn't, if it can suit that, we'll add it, but if it doesn't, we won't. The other thing I want to do is give you reviews from the adventures that we've built on this channel, and I'm doing this without filtering negative ones out because I want us to constantly get better, and often the road to greater success is through failing than by succeeding. So we're not going to get it right every single time. I don't expect to. I'm hoping you're not expecting me to be on the money every single time, but in the end, what we'll be building will be better adventures that go out. And then we'll be reviewing RPG systems, but only from a lighter perspective, right? And only on those things that might impact how someone builds out an adventure. So like from an adventure creating perspective. What we won't do. So we're not a news and rumors channel. There's plenty others that do it and they do it well. And they are building videos right before they release them so they can give you the greatest and latest news. Excuse me, I'll probably keep that cough in. We're not that. So the next thing I'm going to say is that we're not going to be doing deep dives into RPG systems, and we're not going to review it to the nth degree, and I'm not going to create how to play this particular role-playing game unless it's really critical to understanding how to build an adventure, right? Again, the things that impact adventure creation are things that we're going to go over, but doing super deep dives into a particular RPG, probably not going to do that on this channel. So then the last thing is dealing with bad licenses. So I'm going to ask you to leave comments down below on any video about particular systems you want me to take a look at. However, if the systems themselves, they might be amazing, but their gaming licenses are awful. They won't even allow me to give away the adventure if we create it. I'm not going to try to fight that system. So I'll let you know about it, but I'm not going to be creating adventures for systems with licenses that don't allow me to either release it as an adventure and you can support the channel by purchasing it, or give away the content for free from time to time. I want to be able to share these adventures with you in some shape or fashion. And if we can't do that, we won't be spending time making that happen. Okay, so last thing is, I'm happy to collaborate. You see the QR codes and the links for YouTube and Rumble. You can find me on either one. Please use the one that you prefer. If you just want to reach out to me and send me an email, you can find me at buildabetteradventure@gmail.com. I am looking forward to seeing all of your suggestions, ideas, things that we can do together, and happy to collaborate. Please don't send me adventure ideas on the Gmail. I'd much rather, if you want to collaborate, let's just talk about it at a high level and go, hey, I'd like to collaborate with you, and this is my channel, right? Or whatever, however you want to collaborate. Let's talk a little bit about that. And with that, we're concluded. So thank you for staying till the end. Appreciate it. Take care.